Today I'm going to demonstrate how you can use the ECRA report card analysis to extract more accurate and positive messages about your school system. One of the key features of the ECRA analysis is our use of percentiles. And percentiles, I mean state-level percentiles that look at relative performance of your local school district to what we know exists across the state of Illinois. And so percentiles have a lot of great properties, three of which I'm going to talk about here today. One is they're simple. They're easy to communicate, they're easy to understand. People are used to digesting percentiles with data. Two is they're empirical. And by empirical, I mean they reference what actually exists across the state. They don't have state policy layered on top of it, which confounds our ability to understand exactly what's going on. And three, they're comparable. There's a lot of metrics on the state report card, and without converting raw metrics to percentiles, we don't have a way to compare values to each other to extract different storylines. And so if you go to the website, there are sample reports at ecragroup.com, but what you'll see is that the analysis compares 2019 data prior to the pandemic to 2022 data as the pandemic is receding. We've gone ahead and we've taken all of the Illinois State Report Card that's available in the public domain, and we've analyzed it and converted these raw metrics to percentiles. And we did that for student achievement data, financial data, student demographic data, and district characteristic data. And then the report also gives you the opportunity to add context and narrative within the report so you can tell your local story. And the report is designed to be turnkey so that when you receive the report and you add a few comments, it's ready to go right into a board packet or it's ready to go on the website for the community. So let's look at three examples for how you might use this report to message a more accurate story and a more positive story about your school system. So the first one is going to be about student proficiency. And so I'm looking at page 3 of the report, and we're going to look at 2022 data in this example, and we're going to look at math proficiency. And so if I just read the data right off the report, what you'll see is for this particular school system, which is an actual live school system, so this is real data for one school district, is that you see that 47% of students meet or exceed Illinois math standards. Right? And so at face value, you say, well, how might I sort of communicate this in a way that people are going to understand this, because they might get the wrong idea that we're not doing as well as we know we are. Well, if you convert that to a percentile, you'll find that that 47% actually corresponds to the 91st state percentile. And so you're actually outperforming 91% of school districts in Illinois. And so when you think about potential headlines that you could extract from this, if you use the raw data, you might extract a headline, or somebody might extract a headline that reads, latest test results for 2022 reveal only 47% of students meet grade level standards in math. But we can write a more accurate headline, a more positive headline, by converting to percentiles. And in doing so, we can write a headline that is more accurate and more positive, something that might read, district mathematics performance in the top 10% of Illinois based on latest test results. Let's go ahead and look at another example. This is looking at the pandemic period by just looking at the change between 2019 and 2022, because the report does contain an analysis of both 2019 state report card data and 2022 state report card data, so we can look at the change that has happened. Again, I'm reading right off the report. Again, this is page 3 of the report, and that red box is the numbers that I'm lifting right off the report. And so if I just use the raw metrics, we see that in 2019, this particular district, 49% of students met or exceeded Illinois math standards. In 2022, in this district, 47% of students met or exceeded Illinois math standards. So again, at face value, you're saying, well, how do I communicate this? We see a drop in performance from 49 to 47%, and both are below 50%. It doesn't accurately reflect what's going on within our school system. But if we convert that to percentiles, what we find is that even prior to the pandemic in 2019, this particular district was at the 85th percentile, meaning they outperformed 85% of school districts across the state. But then in 2022, they actually became more competitive and they were at the 91st percentile. When you think about potential headlines that you might extract from this with the raw metrics, the headline might read something like, district experiences drop in test scores as a result of the pandemic. But with the percentiles, it'll read a little different. With the percentiles, it might read, district students outperformed the state in 2022 by wider margin than prior to the pandemic in 2019. Again, this is another great example about being more accurate results in being more positive. Let's look at one more example that compares different kinds of metrics within the state report card to extract a message around academic return on investment. And so this is the idea of how much are we spending and then what's the return that we're getting for that spending. I'm looking at page 3 and page 4 of the ECRA analysis. And so those red boxes, again, I'm just lifting the data right off of this report. And if you go to the website and download the sample report, you can follow right along what I'm doing here. If you look at the raw metrics contained in the analysis, you'll find that this particular school district spends $11,609 per student. This is total operating cost per pupil. And in terms of the percentage of students that are meeting or exceeding math standards, they're at 47%. So they're spending almost $12,000 per student, and 47% of students are meeting or exceeding standards. If we convert that to percentiles, it tells a much different story. They're actually at the 27th percentile for spending, but they're at the 91st percentile for student performance. So they're spending more than 27% of districts, but outperforming 91% of them with respect to student achievement. And so again, another great example of how using percentiles is more accurate and more positive, because if we think about potential headlines that might come from this data, if you're using the raw metrics, the headline might read something like, despite spending nearly $12,000 per student, only 47% of students are at grade level in math. Using percentiles, we can write something more accurate, more positive, and it might read, while the district's operational expenditure per student is less than 73% of districts, student math proficiency is in the top 9% of the state.